And action.
You want me to lead or you?
Okay. Welcome to Movies Are Dead. I'm your host, Boris. And my co-host.
Hey, it's me, Nick, back at it again.
Back at it again.
We're here.
Today we're going to talk about Federico Fellini's Il Bidone. Someone's got Fellini fever in this room.
I wonder who it is. I think it's both of us. We've slowly become obsessed with the Fellinster.
I saw this movie like 2 years ago, but I watched it again just for you.
What'd you say, on Criterion?
Yeah. Like
Right.
last time I saw it, I think it was on Filmstruck.
Yeah, remember that? They did the Fellini 100. That's the time when they were releasing the box set, I think, that same year.
Yeah.
And they were like doing like all of his movies. And that's when I watched them too. I was like, I think it's time. Like, I get into Fellini. I think it's time I finally figure this guy out, you know. But yeah, today's film is Il Bidone from 1955. According to Google, this is how the plot goes. So, tired of impersonating priests, three small-time swindlers, played by Broderick Crawford, Richard Basehart, and Franco Federici, go their separate ways. So, in addition to those three coming out, we also have Giulietta Messina as Iris, as Picasso's wife, played by Richard Basehart. And we also have Lorella De Luca playing Patricia, who is Augusto, played by Broderick Crawford. So Lorella is his daughter, but this is an oddball, it's kind of strange to think this movie came out after La Strada, because it feels like it should have been after The White Chic or Variety Lights. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, I mean it's tied into Fellini's neorealist beginnings, and it seemed like this movie doesn't have his usual Fellini-esque qualities, whatever those may be. Usually expect the circus, expect performers. Even in this movie, you have performers in the form of con men. It doesn't have all the other traditional oddball qualities that Fellini movies started to have after La Strada. It's very, it's neorealist. It's not basic. It's very classical in its filmmaking. It's straightforward.
It is straightforward.
No dream sequences, no fantasy sequences. It tells the story straight. It's a close analysis of a certain type of con man that seeks to reach the upper classes, but does that by stealing from the poor. And even if they try to rub elbows with the upper classes, they still aren't accepted.
Yeah,
right?
So it's like this movie by Fellini. It doesn't feel. It feels like a deep cut B-side to his bigger movies. This is one where when I was watching it, I was like, it doesn't feel like it belongs after La Strada. This is before. This feels like a lead up to La Strada. But it is very strange that this movie got made, and it's almost fitting of the time. It felt like he did this one more for the studios or more of a financial gain. Not to say there's no artistic endeavor in this, but it just feels like this one is more of a hard-boiled noir. I know last week we talked about John Woo's Hard Boiled. This is a complete contrast to that. There's no big time action sequences. It's a straightforward noir heist movie. Broderick Crawford as the protagonist, Augusto, I think he's one of my favorite Fellini characters. On second viewing, I was like, I like this guy a lot. Yeah. He's very just that opening scene when the three of them are swindling the poor into believing they're priests and that the poor have a treasure chest buried beneath their grounds of their home. That scene is heartbreaking, dude. It's very sad how Fellini films that, how they just lure these people into believing them, and the idea of the power of God and the power of religion that they have just because they're wearing crosses and a priest uniform. If that were to happen today, in modern America, a priest just shows up at your door and says there's treasure beneath your yard, you would probably be what are you doing? Please exit my home, So when I think of Fellini's Il Bidone, I feel that this movie I think this one's for hardcore fans. I think this one's like something like this is not a good entry point for Fellini in my opinion. I think this is a good like like a good B-side. You put it on and you're just to see the growth of Fellini because it is there. It is leading to something, and it also reminds me a lot of Il Bidone, a lot as well. Like the way he films the city, the way the cities are the city is captured, and then you see like the outskirts of where the poor live. Farmers and peasants, and how he films them and how heartbreaking it is.
It's a very simple tale. Not simple morally, but in the way it's told. He's trying to compare and contrast, obviously. As you said, comparing the religious fervor of the peasants and the poor in the countryside to the almost atheist upper class.
They have no religion. It's like disturbing how he films the upper class.
I mean, it could be sort of cliche and be like, oh, they only they only pray like they're only got his money or status, luxury, and these three con men are just sort of in the middle because they want to be up with these people up here, but they just don't even pay them any attention.
You're referring. Yeah, you're most likely referring to that party scene, the New Year's Eve party scene.
This is a movie that doesn't have any set pieces, but that's probably like the biggest one.
Biggest one. Like, Augusto, Picasso, and Roberto. They attend like a
it's a
New Year's Eve bash,
New Year's Eve party,
and Iris Giulietta Messina joins them.
Right. And they try to fit in. They try to dance, try to like make conversation. Picasso brings his painting.
Roberto, he does bring his painting. That's right. He shows.
He's like, oh, I heard you have good taste.
He does. He's like, buy this. Take a look. And the host of the party was like this art dealer's like, yeah, sure. What am I gonna do with this?
He's more worried about his wife.
Like, oh yeah. How about that scene where they have all those guys are around that like Miss Italy girl who wants to be like in a pageant. And they're like, take off your clothes.
Yeah, it's just completely...
all these dudes around this one, like, helpless girl, like...
Yeah, it's just
swarming her.
Sweaty, desperate scene. Then they like, pants that guy, and then they, like... hold him out over the balcony. Like
they flip him over. Yeah, and they do, like, a POV shot, and he's, like, screaming. He's like, yeah.
I mean, it's, like, terrifying. Just, like, a grotesque scene where, I don't know.
And then, like, Roberto... what's his name? Is it Fabrizi? Yeah, Franco Fabrizi's character is like hitting on like an old lady, and like just slowly like pushing her away so he can like get to someone else.
Yeah,
it's like just such sleazy characters these guys.
It's about convenience. They just want what they can get from each other now because they like each other as people or interested.
Yeah, that's true. Or they use each other for the heist. Like Picasso is even aware of it. He goes, "I have a face that lures people in, an innocence or something." He says something
he has like a kind face.
Yeah, it's true. He does. Yeah.
Yeah, and you saw part of that in La Strada.
Yeah,
it has like that charm that just sort of makes you trust him and like him for no reason. And also Broderick Crawford has a great face, which just shows that's like a complete exhaustion of his life.
His face is like an old catcher's mitt. I know that's a cliche, but he just looks so like wrung and through like everything.
Like
it's
from what I read, he was also an alcoholic in real life.
Oh, really? You can tell. He's got that bad booze face. Like his nose is all big. Like Jesus.
Yeah, he's like a big guy, sort of overweight.
Yeah,
but he's like intimidating in a way.
He's intimidating.
He has sort of like a presence, like he like dresses up as a priest, and you believe him as a priest because he has that sort of intimidating, pious manner.
He does, yeah.
And
you can make people believe him, and like anything he says goes for some reason.
Yeah, he can like badger and bully people into doing what he wants.
Yeah.
And there's one pivotal scene when they're in the town square at night. It's the middle of the night. And it's the three guys, and he's talking to Picasso, and Picasso's just going on and on about how guilty he feels about lying to his wife.
A sham.
And what would happen if he got arrested and taken away from his daughter.
Yeah, he makes that decision to exit.
Yeah, and then Broderick Crawford tells him that you can't have a family in this type of life. You have to live for your own. And little do we know, later we found out a few minutes prior that he has a daughter that he hasn't seen in a very long time.
Yeah. So sad.
Yeah, and he's preaching in this way that you have to be free in this life. You can't be tied down by anything, but at the same time, he feels a love and responsibility towards his daughter that he hasn't taken responsibility for in years and years.
It's so weird, that scene where where Fellini introduces Gusto's daughter. Like they're like walking during the day. He just walks by her, and then she's the one that's like, "Dad, Dad."
Yeah.
And it's just like, wait a minute, like that's your dad. And so there's already like this distance relationship between them. And then they go see a movie, and then like some dude from a previous heist recognizes him.
Yeah.
Just pure embarrassment.
Scenes in this movie are the ones where some of the con men are shamed publicly for what they've done. For the first, going back to the New Year's Eve scene.
Yeah, Roberto, with the purse, right? With
the golden cigarette case.
The golden cigarette case.
And
that is such an awkward, disturbing scene.
Yeah,
like,
that's
Jesus.
It's you don't see those kinds of scenes where just someone's being embarrassed and you feel terrible for them.
Yeah.
In a way, like, I mean, he shouldn't have stolen the golden cigarette case, but the host of the party, the Baron, is just like an asshole.
Yeah. He's like, somebody lost a cigarette case. He's like, staring right at him.
And then they're like, they both know what they're talking about, but they like play around
It's
a
weird.
little bit.
It's like watching people
I don't
fence
know.
or like sword fight. It's weird.
I don't know what you mean. What cigarette case?
Yeah.
And
Turns
out he did steal it.
Roberto, out of the three, he's the sleaziest of
Yeah.
them all. Like, he just looked like, ugh.
Yeah, at the same time, you can tell that Baron is just, he knows he has all the power in that scene. He can get the cops, he can get his friends to pounce on him, and so he knows he doesn't have to do that. He can just embarrass him, and slowly he'll admit that he actually took the case.
Yeah.
And you feel bad for him. And yeah, he's like the sleaziest of the three, but still you feel bad that someone has been humiliated in front of a whole crowd of people. And that happens again in the movie theater, where from a previous scheme where they sold fake antibiotics.
Yeah, that's right. Antibiotics.
It's a lot worse than seeing a golden cigarette case.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, Broderick Crawford tries to sneak out, but he gets arrested in the lobby, thrown in jail, and his daughter has to watch him get carted off by the cops. And you can vicariously and empathetically feel that shame and embarrassment he has in that moment.
That's true. You can.
And it's not often that movies use that kind of feeling.
It's
that
weird.
Make you feel embarrassed for a character.
No, yeah, that's weird because this movie, like, you're not supposed to feel bad for these guys. Like, they swindle the poor.
Yeah.
And that's like the worst thing you can do, but somehow like you sympathize with them. Feel so bad for them. And you're just, especially like Picasso, and you brought up that scene, thinking worst case scenario if he gets taken away, and like Broderick Crawford just tells him, like, you already messed up your life. Like, you got married too young, you had children, what are you doing with your life? So he doesn't try to like persuade him to like stay. He's just like, you should probably exit right now.
Right.
know?
Yeah. And this, I mean, we know that this isn't the job that they want to. No, this wasn't the dream, right? The job they always wanted to have, like Picasso wants to paint.
Yeah.
What's his name? Sorry, the third con man.
Roberto.
Yeah, he wants to sing. He wants to take singing lessons. Brett Crawford's character, keep forgetting his name.
Augusto.
That's right. But he was a sculptor. At least he says he was.
Yeah, right. Don't they mention that at the New Year's Eve party? He was a sculptor or something.
Yeah.
They're all kind of like failed artists.
Right.
It's so depressing. Jeez.
Yeah, that's where we're going. People in the countryside. But yeah, the economy between the poor and the rich, and the con men in between, is the most interesting part of this movie. In that, the con men, they don't have any allegiance but to like how much money they can take from somebody, rich or poor.
Yeah.
Or are obviously the easier targets. They'll just get away with it much easier than with the rich, because the rich, as we saw before, they'll catch on to it immediately, and the poor, either because of their devotion to religion and faith, or because of their desire for a better life, as exemplified in the scheme they have, where they like take down payments for apartments in the city.
Oh, that scene is intense.
Yeah.
That is such a like, the way that is filmed, and like Messiah, like the way he like films like them rolling through the little slum in the car. It's like a messiah coming into town. Like
Yeah.
it's just like,
The Pope coming in.
and all of a sudden the word gets around. This is the social services people. They're gonna give us housing, and like everybody swarms them.
Right.
And it's just like
And you get people like fighting with each other and shouting over
Fighting,
each other.
shouting.
Like,
Was-
no, me first.
do you think that was the initial plan where they were like, we're gonna roll in and call for attention, or do you think they're just gonna get like one or two people and then exit?
I think like it seems like all these schemes they've done before and like or like
Yeah,
have a lot of experience in. Even at the ending where it's only Augusto's character.
yeah, he's
who's
like
left,
the last one. Yeah,
and he has to like get all these other fools to go with him, and these fools aren't as loyal to him or like as they don't care about him as a person.
yeah, they don't. They're like,
Yeah,
it's like a ragtag crew, and like there's no loyalty. There's
Right.
no friendship. Picasso's already exiting. Roberto, what did they say about him? Like
he went to Milan.
he
and
was
he's-
last seen in a
yeah,
sports
he has like
car
a
in
really nice
Milan.
car.
Like,
Yeah,
it's so vague. You're
Yeah.
like, oh, okay, all right. Like the bartender at the hotel says it. It's like, okay, well, I guess that's what happened to him.
uh-huh.
But like, yeah, like the crew he assembles, you can just tell it's like every man for himself.
Yeah, definitely. And you can tell in that last scene that these characters already all know the plot. They know how to do this
Yeah.
classic scheme where you like you pretend you gotta go dig the treasure in the next to a tree
Yeah.
or something, and then you gotta have the priest drive in and go like, oh, we have on this letter, and then
Yeah.
it's this old plot. But the thing is, at the ending, is that he meets the daughter of the family, and she has
Yeah.
polio.
Yeah, polio victim.
And this
yeah.
is just, it's like all his guilt and shame has been accumulating the entire movie. And this is just like the final straw where he just decides he can't do this anymore.
I was thinking like maybe Augusto saw his daughter in the polio
Yeah,
girl.
definitely. That's part
He
of it.
saw her and he was just like, I can't keep doing this. Like,
Mm-hmm.
I need to like, what was he gonna do? Like, he was gonna give his daughter like 200,000 lire, right?
Yeah,
Is
she's
that what
gonna
it
go
said?
to school and she needs money to live.
Needs money to live, right? And then she's gonna get a
Apartment.
cashiering job to apply. Like, you need to pay to apply. What was it? It was something like that.
Forget. But yeah, she has a job, but she can't afford it, and she can't afford all she needs to go to keep studying and to just have a life.
Yeah.
And so at the end, they get about 350,000 lire from the family, but it turns out, and we don't see this, that Augusto returns it to the family, and then it comes out that
Yeah, that's what he says. Yeah.
yeah, well, I believe him. Later, find money in his shoe, but I don't think that was the money that he.
Oh, you
took
don't
from
think that
them.
was it?
No, I definitely
You think
don't.
that's
I
his
think
money?
he definitely felt and shitty, and he went, no, I can't do this anymore. I'm just gonna. This is the last time.
So wait, so the money in the shoe at the end, is that his money then? Is that what you think?
It's ambivalent. It's
It is
ambiguous.
kind of ambivalent.
It's
Yeah.
ambiguous. But I believe that he definitely left the money with the family. I don't think he had the heart to do that anymore.
See, I wanted to believe that, but then like when they pull out the shoe money, I was like, oh, maybe he hid it in the shoe. But then
Yeah, then he goes, no, that's my money. That's mine.
that's my money. Yeah.
He just.
So he did like give them the money back then, huh?
Yeah, that's what
Maybe.
I thought. I mean, unless I'm like, it's wishful thinking, but yeah, that's why I think he just was so overwhelmed with just like the pain that
Yeah.
his life was
Because
causing
he
him.
talks to the polio girl in like their backyard and
Yeah.
in the field, and she's like, my sister's the real victim. She works from like sun up to sundown.
Yeah, she works like a man. She gets up at 4 in the
It's
morning.
like a man. And then, yeah, she says that, and then the girl's like, "I live like a queen, like a princess or something," and they just sit here.
Yeah, and then he like asked her, "How long have you had polio?"
Yeah.
Since I was 9 years old. And
Yeah,
then
she's like 16 or something or 17.
yeah, and then she doesn't have exactly like a sunny disposition. She just sort of seems at peace with it.
Yeah, I think that's what kind of throws him off too.
Yeah.
Her peace with nothing, like her peace of accepting the disease she has and how she can't do anything.
Yeah,
you
and
know?
then he tells her, and it's like the most important line, not the one of the most important lines, is that you have no idea how many people have it worse. Some people
That's true.
live with no beauty in their lives,
Yeah,
and he's talking mostly about himself. Really,
yeah,
it was just like empty. His life is empty. He has nothing really to call his own, nothing to be proud of. I mean, his daughter just misses him. That's really it.
yeah.
But essentially, she's been abandoned by him. had to like live his lifestyle of conniving and stealing and trying to like open a nightclub that no one will invest in. It's just sad. And then the ending is heartbreaking where he
The
just
ending is
yeah,
heartbreaking, man.
he
It ends like a
just
Kurosawa. It reminds me of like Kurosawa or like Bergman or something, and like
it was just like a very downbeat neo-realist ending. Like a
yeah,
lot of those movies have that where just like
yeah.
it ends with like life keeps going on
Like
and it just gets shittier.
like
It's just
the
shitty, you
way
know?
like Fellini films this scene when after he, as you were saying, gives the money back to the poor and he tells the crew, "I didn't steal the money," and they're all surrounding him and they're like, we're gonna beat you up pretty much.
No, yeah, they're like throwing rocks at
They're
him as he
throwing
like
rocks at
runs
him. It turns into
downhill.
a rock throwing like fight,
Yeah.
and
very
it's just like the way he films the rock throwing, how they're throwing it, and then like
it's very biblical,
yeah.
it's animalistic.
it's
Yeah,
like yeah, the Augusto's running down a hill and he turned. I'm like, why did he turn around? And then it hits him like
yeah.
square in the head, and like he falls down, and like he hurts his back on a rock, and like the way he's just laying there like God, like Jesus, like crucified.
Yeah.
And it's just like, dude, how worse can it get? And then they steal his money. I don't know, Fellini. I think he knows how to capture death in a weird way. Like in La Strada, the way they kill like Richard Basehart's character, like the blow to the head, and all of a sudden like just death is slow. Like he just carries out death in a slow way,
Yeah.
you know. And like Augusto's character just dying there on the hillside, like as children walk by, life continues as you were saying. Like it's so disturbing, dude. Like it just I can't think of another movie that filmed like that showed a character die slowly like that and then it just
Yeah.
ends. It just ends.
It's like
dude.
night and
At
then it's like
night.
day again.
I know.
And he like
It's
keeps
almost-
crawling up slowly. He can't even like stand up apparently. He has to like crawl up the
I know. I'm laughing because like when I think about it, I think about it like it's almost like a cartoon. It
Yeah, it's
doesn't
very
feel
theatrical.
Yeah, it's like a cartoon, and it's just like this slow climbing of a hill, and you're like starting to think like, oh my god, he might make it out. He might make it out alive.
Yeah, it's just like movies during that time period didn't take like they treated death as like instantaneous thing. Like
That's true. Yeah.
like
Especially
either
in
like
noirs, they would just shoot
yeah,
somebody
and
and
then
they're
it's
dead.
like oh they're just dead, or like you punch someone in the face one time and they're just like they're they're unconscious completely.
Yeah.
But yeah, Fellini, like you said, in La Strada and this movie especially, he just draws out his character's death to the point where it just feels bad. It feels like like they're
Yeah.
really dying.
Yeah, he knows how to capture the death of a soul. It's just
Yeah.
like,
There's like no grace at the end. It's just like
there
a
isn't.
slow dissipation of life.
Yeah, and the children just walking by with like twigs on their back. The
Yeah, they
peasants.
just like I forgot what he says, but he's like,
Wait for me.
wait for me.
He's like, wait for me.
And then yeah, they don't even notice he's there.
Yeah, just life continues on.
Yeah.
Just death. Always that one last job.
Right. That's the classic noirish.
That's the classic noir.
Yeah, production code sort of. You have to
Yeah,
make your
this is
characters pay
it.
for it in the end.
Yeah, this is gonna be the last job I'll ever take, and then that's it.
Yeah, and for this, it's not like not Fellini. He had to like make this ending be about some moralistic lesson about how you shouldn't steal from the poor, but it's just like it's more about how this one character saw the light when it was too late,
Yeah,
and now he can't do anything about it. He can't.
man, that's
make
fitting.
amends.
That's fitting with like the theme we've had. Like we were talking about earlier before the podcast. Like, you know, for those who were listening last week with the hard-boiled pool vinyl episode, like, like we were pretty much talking about a pool vinyl peeling on an above-ground pool. Today we were just talking about like the damage is done with the pool vinyl. Like,
Yeah.
you can't go back. And those are the worst moments in life, I think, where you like had like a moment where it's like, if I would have stopped right there, if I would have changed my mind about something, things could have been different. But you kept going and you kept doing something, and like that's like the worst feeling, I think. Like knowing you could have changed things but you didn't.
Mm-hmm.
You know. But I guess that's life though, right?
Yeah, like you didn't realize what you had to do, or you always thought you had more time,
You always thought you had more time, yeah.
and then turns out you didn't.
Yeah.
too late now.
Yeah. Like Fellini knows how to like convey that well, I think. You
Yeah,
know?
it's just this script. Like you're reading the synopsis, and I realized that I have noticed that often on Google or whatever website, for movies that are very character based and character driven, they have a hard time writing a synopsis for.
It's
So they
tough.
kind of like modify it to make it sure,
Yeah.
like, to make it seem like it has a plot,
Yeah, it's
like a end
when in
goal.
reality this doesn't really have a plot. It's
Yeah.
just like dudes swindling the poor, and then it's like key moments in their life.
Yeah, Fellini never really wrote that way, where it's like
Yeah.
the protagonist has like one main objective
Yeah.
and one
What's the
antagonist.
protagonist is objective.
What's
and,
the
like,
arc?
what's
This
the
character,
arc?
this
Yeah.
character in this movie definitely has a big arc, but you never wrote it in a way that where you went
Yeah.
from A to B to C. It's more of a constant, slow development of what the character is going through.
And also like his like portrayal of the poor, like from like even like Variety Lights, you know, and then like to Cabiria, like La Dolce Vita, but like that's where he kind of changes things, how he views the poor. But it feels like up to Cabiria, like the way he films the poor is so like sad and desolate and like empty, and there's no hope for them, and this is how it'll be for them, like for an extended amount of time. I don't know. Maybe that's just how things were post Italy, like post-war Italy.
Definitely. Yeah.
You know what I mean?
I mean, yeah. Let's take a look at Bicycle Thieves or something. Rome, Open City, stuff like that.
Yeah,
and
Rome.
then all these directors, yeah, they weren't. It's just like, I feel like they were just honest, right?
It's
I
an
don't feel
honest
like, I mean, if like that happened here in the United States, they would dress it up. All the poor characters would be like happy-go-lucky, like, oh, well.
But I don't know. I think
About
his
to burst
movies-
into song. I mean,
like he knows how to show them desolate and poor, but like the spirit of life in them though
sure.
is like
yeah.
so like real. I don't know how to describe it. Like even the way he shows like the peasant audiences in La Strada, like they're excited to be there,
Oh, yeah.
you know, or like in Cabiria, like the ladies of the night, they're poor, but they're having like fun, and there's this like how would you say, like burst of life. You know what I mean? Like they're glad to be alive. It's weird. And his portrayal
true.
of like the upper class, it's like they have everything, but like
Yeah, they're empty and
They're empty
decrepit,
inside.
decaying.
yeah,
Yeah, part of that's just it's interesting, and Fellini always seemed to be arguing against the closures that institutions like Catholicism,
oh yeah, we talked about this before. Yeah,
imposed on the poor
Yeah.
mostly. And you can tell a lot from this movie that these characters, the poor characters, are just so desperate or so faithful to have some sort of miracle happen where they'll just be lifted up out of poverty, or just
yeah, like the
have,
polio girl.
or have one day where they don't have to worry about where the next meal is coming from. That they'll just that's like the flaw, really. That why they believe these men when they show up with this like bogus story about treasure being buried next to the lone tree in the farm. They're just waiting for something like that to happen to them, because they felt like, oh, we've suffered and struggled for so long. We deserve
something
some
good.
sort of divine reward.
Yeah,
I mean, yeah, like that in this movie, you see characters hear them say, "Oh, we've been praying and praying. We had it so hard here.
yeah,
Finally, something." And then thing where they like switch up. Oh, you have to pay us for these amount of masses at the church.
yeah. The paperwork clause.
And then they're like, "Oh no, we can get. I don't know if we have that money." And then they're like, "Oh, we gotta go into town. We gotta take the carriage." And just like so sad and so. I mean, it's
Yeah.
deeply empathetic. At the same time, it's just sort of very authentic, honest way of looking at this class of people that is just, I don't know, it just leads you to believe that Fellini had much more sympathy for these people than obviously for the rich, who have everything, who have food, money, shelter.
Like an 8.5 for La Dolce Vita.
Yeah, any of his movies, really, the rich are just sort of, sort of broken and morally bankrupt.
They are. Yeah, the way he portrays them.
And the way the poor aren't. They're spiritually full. Yeah, they might not have anything to eat tomorrow, but they still have this sort of inner strength and
You're
humanity
making
to them.
me think of the father in Amakord, where he's like, I'm
Yeah.
going to kill myself. And then he does this whole character like monologue where he's like crying open his mouth and
Yeah.
he's making noises, and it's just like, but then the next day he's gonna go to work. Like,
Yeah.
it's still that spirit of life, you know?
Yeah. It's true. But yeah, going back to what you were saying before, yes, I guess this does feel like sort of a B-side, but a pretty great one.
It is, yeah.
Because, yeah, I mean, like any other filmmaker, there would have been like an okay movie, but he makes it great through his attention to the character
Yeah.
and attention to like small details.
Yeah. This is like a good companion piece, I think, to Il Bidone. Like, it's a good double feature, I feel like.
Yeah. It's
You know.
yeah, those movies are like the most down to earth that he made. Less fantastical, much more neo-realist.
Yeah.
Sort of have these naturalistic mix of the noir.
Yeah.
It makes it a really
It's also
interesting
like,
mix.
it feels like his most American type of film, too. Like, I can see this being done
yeah.
like an American.
Yeah, it could be.
It's like almost like a studio piece or something from the 50s, and like straightforward story.
Mm-hmm.
You know, just a very different change up, I think, in my opinion. You know, because it's like from what the next one's Cabiria.
Yeah.
I mean, that's where it starts. You know, in some way, it starts with La Strada, but I mean, like,
Yeah.
you know, it kind of picks up. He finds something in Cabiria that's just, I don't know if it's hard to replicate in his other movies, I think, you know.
Special alchemy.
No, yeah, so if you guys have not seen it, check it out. Richard Basehart as Picasso, my favorite character. I had no idea he was in the American TV show Voyage to the Bottom of the Sea. No idea. Even though he looks like an American and has an American name, I had no idea he was like a giant star. So it shows what I know.
All right.
So
Watch Il Bidone if you have the
Il
Criterion
Bidone.
channel.
If it's still on there. I don't know if it's still on there. Is it? Right on.
And if not, just buy the box set. All 8 of you listeners.
Guys, thank you so much for listening to another episode of Movies Are Dead. Join us for the following one, Audition.
Ooh.
I know.
Can't wait.
It's gonna be great.
All right. Bye.